Hello and welcome to episode 284 of the Casual Try Hard podcast. I'm Brian,
And I'm James.
and this week we're being old men talking about back in our day,
Back in our day.
or back in my day, I should say.
Yep. We having to double up this week. Won't be able to record next week, so not that that matters to you, but we're recording this prior to you listening to it.
We're recording it pre-Pro Tour,
That is correct.
so we may have Pro Tour reactions coming up.
Yeah. If you listen to the pre-show, that's obvious that we recorded this Pro Tour.
Pre-show? What's the pre-show?
That's for our patrons. It's
Isn't it the unshow?
Oh, that's right. It is the unshow. Man, I forgot.
It was 2 days ago. I had a good idea 2 days ago. Here, block it out. Block it out.
My brain's broke. I'm old.
Back in my
day.
Back in my day, the creatures didn't have colors.
I heard a thing this week that once you reach a certain age, in order for you to learn something new, you have to forget something.
I mean, I'm forgetting a lot,
Yeah.
so I should be learning all kinds of new stuff.
Yep.
So, if you want to have input on the show, what we talk about, what we're doing, reach out to us on social media, Facebook, Discord, Twitter, email. All those links are in the description. Reach us there and let us know if you think Nadu being 25% of the metagame is a good thing. And I don't know, maybe get off your Shukos now.
Yeah.
Just
in
saying,
case.
just in case. Like, they're expensive now. Maybe you should not own them anymore.
Hey, Nado's not even the most expensive or most played card at the Pro Tour either.
It is not. The most played card at the Pro Tour is a common. Good job, Wizards.
So yeah, if you want to, like Brian said, if you want to shape the show, let us know what you want to talk about, or just yell at us for whatever reason if we get something wrong. Links for all that stuff's in the description to hit us up. If you want to support the show, there's a couple ways you can do it. The first is via our TCG player affiliate link, CasualTryHard.com/TCG. If you want to pick up your own Nadus or Flages or Galvanic Discharges, surf on over there, do your shopping, support the show at the same time. It doesn't cost you guys anything extra and really helps us out. We would appreciate it. If you want to support us more directly, Patreon.com/CasualTryHardMtg is where you can do that. You can chip a couple bucks in. You get access to our unshow.
Yeah.
You also get access to the show notes. The unshow is about another hour-ish of content out of us every week. Completely unscripted, unedited, on everything, hence the unshow. We just kind of record us goofing around before we start recording, making sure our equipment works and all that, and pipe it into our patrons' ears, and then show notes so you get a sneak peek about what the episode's going to be about for the week. If any of that sounds good, or if you just want to support the show you listen to every week, like I said, Patreon.com/CasualTryHardMtg. Hit us up, chip a couple bucks in. We would appreciate it.
Yes, please. All right, so we are talking about back in our day, Battle for Zendikar.
Yeah, if you guys remember, this is kind of a series we do when we have to like double up recording, because it's just something that doesn't have to be time sensitive, just something that we can cover kind of whenever. And we're working our way through the sets that we have played. And by now, like BFZ, well, let's get right into it. When did BFZ come out?
BFZ came out October 2nd, 2015.
So
which feels like a million years ago.
Well, it was almost 10 years ago.
Yes.
We're pretty well into being back into Magic at this point, right? Like personally?
Yeah, like I think it's about a year for me.
Yeah, I think like the first couple of these that we did, we were still pretty new, getting our feet back wet in the game again. Like we both played when we were kids, but had kind of come back at a later point. And by now, I think we're both getting into competitive play.
Yes.
I think we went to a limited GP for this, didn't we?
We did.
Thought so.
We did. So I remember my opponent sat down and had a Desolation Twins
Yeah.
token on top of his stuff.
Yeah.
And we're playing, and he taps the 10 mana. I was like, all right, like, can I beat a Desolation Twin? It was an Ulamog instead. It was a surprise Ulamog.
It was the other 10 mana Eldrazi.
It's the other 10 mana Eldrazi.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, well, it could not beat.
Yeah. Couldn't be a Desolation Twin, definitely couldn't be a Ulamog.
Yes, definitely was in a bad way.
Yep. For whatever reason, I remember it being a limited GP that I went to, but I don't remember the event at all. Do you remember where it was?
Right.
Like, maybe that would jog my memory.
I think it was in Atlanta. I think it was in the Atlanta convention. I think. It was either Atlanta or Charlotte.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm trying to remember, like, the layout of the place, but I don't remember for sure. Yeah, the event hall.
Yeah.
But I don't remember 100% for sure.
Yeah, I don't know why I can't remember this event.
It definitely occurred.
Oh, yeah, I know. I know I was there. I just don't remember it for whatever reason. Like, I can't remember any specifics.
Yeah.
So back in my day, I can't remember.
Exactly. It was a long time ago.
Yep.
Like you said, almost 10 years.
Yep.
So, in terms of mechanics, it's funny. Like, having covered MH3, some of the mechanics came back.
Yeah.
And the big one would be Devoid.
Mm-hmm.
Which, as we all know now, just means ignore the mana cost in the upper right-hand corner. This card has no colors.
Yeah, when determining color.
Yeah, just does not matter. Everything you know about the game is a lie.
Yep. Really doesn't, like, outside of corner cases, Devoid doesn't really matter.
Yeah, there's...
Like, it's a weird mechanic to keyword because for the most part, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, in this current, in MH3, like, Null Elemental Blast can't get a Writhing Chrysalis because it's colorless.
Right.
Ghostfire Slice doesn't count Writhing Chrysalis for, like, the cost reduction.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, like, one other, like... well, there was... what was it? Oh, it's Kozilek's Return would let you kill the white Core Firewalker.
Yeah, Kozilek's Return was in Oath though.
Okay,
wasn't in this.
But it was the Void,
right? Was that Oath or was that?
I think you're right. You may, because like I just. That was like a Devoid card that kind of mattered.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not in this set.
Okay. Preview for next time, but that was a Devoid card where like that like corner case occasionally mattered.
Yeah, but like looking back, I think that's the only, like in constructed competitive play, I think that's the only case that ever mattered.
Yes. And I mean, it's I would hazard to guess that is the same case for like the MH3 Devoid cards.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they are Devoid does not really matter.
Yeah.
Right. Like Writhing Chrysalis being the same thing. Like it's not like you're like pumped that you're avoiding Null Elemental Blast.
Right.
All right.
In addition to Devoid, we also had the ingest mechanic. This was a really strange one. It 8 cards out of exile and put them into the graveyard for an effect.
No.
Other way around. 8 cards out of exile and put them in the graveyard.
I thought ingest was when you would attack and they would put a card from the top of their library into the graveyard. And then process was not keyworded, but all the cards that process were something processor.
Oh.
And they would take the card from exile and put it into the graveyard. I think. Like, but ingest, because like the only reason I'm even like mildly confident in this is I was there's it's Vile Spawn,
Mm-hmm.
I think, is a star 5 that has with trample and power and toughness equal to the number of
Oh,
colorless creatures you control with ingest.
yeah. No, you are
It,
correct. So I was way
so,
wrong.
yeah, so ingest is it was a keyworded mechanic that it was, I think, on attack, not even on hit. I think it was on attack.
Yep.
It would take the top card of their library and put it into exile.
Mm.
And then there were other cards that were typically they were like there was Ruin Processor.
Yeah.
There were cards that were like called processors
Mm-hmm.
that would not all of them, of course, consistency, that would take the card from exile and put it into the graveyard
Mm-hmm.
for an effect.
Yeah.
Now it didn't matter how the card got to exile. If you cast an exile removal spell,
Mm-hmm.
you could then process it into their graveyard.
Right.
Ingest was a limited only mechanic. I don't think a single ingest card like saw play.
Yeah.
But it was miserable because, and maybe this is like me being a year back into the game,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like the fact that like it's like persistent mill,
Yeah.
and the number of times like, you know, oh, it's all random, but it still sucks when like your
Right.
bomb or your answer just goes to
Goes
exile
away.
and you're just like, oh, there goes my Ulamog.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, well, like, I had 10 mana, I could have cast it, but it got eaten instead.
Yep.
So, like, I just remember, like, the mechanic just always felt kind of like a feel-bad mechanic.
Yeah.
Because even though it is random, which I don't know if I'm air quotes around random, even though it is random, 100%, it still doesn't feel good when you're like watching cards that you're not getting to play go away.
I mean, that's part of the problem with like mill. Like nobody likes playing against mill, and even if you understand the math and random is random, like it still sucks because you're not getting to play with the cards that you put in your deck.
Yeah, like I put this card in my deck so I could play with it, not so that it could go to the graveyard and me be sad about it.
Yep.
Right. So that is a thing that is not good about this mechanic. It was, I just remember it not being fun.
Yeah, like in and of itself, it didn't do anything. Like you said, you had to have processors in your deck in order for it to matter. And like the processors, like there was some of them that were okay, but for the most part, I don't remember them doing much.
Like Ruin Processor was good. There was like I think one in one of the two sets that like
was Wasteland
card
Strangler.
I don't think Wasteland Strangler was in this set, but it did the thing. Wasteland Strangler was in this set.
That was a
processor
though, right?
Yes, creature Eldrazi processor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
and like that mattered a little bit.
Yeah, so that for everyone is it would enter the battlefield and it would take a card from exile, put it into the graveyard, and then someone would get neg 3.
Yeah. So it was kind of like a Ravenous Chupacabra with extra steps.
With extra steps, exactly.
Yep.
I would say Devoid was in kind of all of the colors. It wasn't one color that had.
I would argue that Devoid was in no colors.
Fair. There were no in this set. There were no cards with white mana symbols that also had Devoid, but it was across the other four colors.
I think there's only one, like in any sets, right? It's just what is it? 2 and a white, 3/3 flicker thing. Yeah.
Gosh, Eldrazi Displacer.
Yeah, Displacer. That's it.
So, like, green only had a few.
Yep.
But, like, ingest, so, like, there was a bounce guy that would, like, bounce a thing when it came into play. Or counter a spell, was it? Yeah, so Ulamog's Nullifier would counter a spell.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they weren't that great at like all.
Yeah.
And I said it was fiddly in the worst kind of way because like you didn't feel like you got paid off for doing the fiddly thing.
Right.
And then like if you didn't do the fiddly thing, your cards just didn't do anything.
Yep.
Which is very different than how cards work now, right? Like,
Yes.
and the card just didn't do anything. It just had power and toughness. It's like I don't understand. All right.
So both of those mechanics were Eldrazi mechanics. Oh, do you have something to say real quick?
Nope.
Okay. Both of those were strictly limited to Eldrazi cards. But there was another faction in BFZ, and that was the plane fighting back against the Eldrazi. So
Yes.
all of the rest of these mechanics were kind of representative of that. The first is Awaken, and Awaken is Kicker, I guess. Except
Yes.
that it had the same effect no matter what spell it was on. And that is, if you paid the Awaken cost, you would put a number of +1/+1 counters on a land you control, and that land became a creature. So
Okay.
I think one of the ones that was popular in, I think it was limited, I don't think it saw any constructed play, was Crush of Currents, Clutch of Currents, Crush of Tentacles.
Crush Tentacles
Crush
was
of Ice. Crush of Ice is the one I was thinking of.
Okay.
Where it's a blue mana for a sorcery, and it stuns a creature, taps a creature, and then it doesn't untap. And it has Awaken 4 and a blue. And if you pay its Awaken cost, you get a 3/3 land for your trouble.
Mm-hmm. I think that Part the Water Veil saw play. It was a time walk that also put.
Part the Water Veil didn't see play until recently.
It didn't?
I don't remember Part the Water Veil seeing play.
Okay,
when
maybe
it was,
you're right.
I think it was
feel
only
like there was,
recently yet.
There was like a mono blue deck with like some cost reducers.
Yeah?
That I think played it.
I don't remember
But
that.
I think it was like at the end of the format because I feel like Elder Deep Fiend was like around. But I could
don't remember
be
that. I cast a lot of Elder Deep Fiends, and I don't remember ever resolving Apart the Water Veil.
No, it was a like Elder Deep Fiend. I was resolving Elder Deep Fiend, and there was like kind of
They
this
were
like
parting
mono
you?
blue. Yeah, they were parting me, which was unpleasant.
Yeah, I remember. So this is kind of a one of the upcoming topics, but Part the Water Veil was one of the cards that I think was exciting when the set was getting spoiled, but didn't really end up doing much. I remember that card kind of being a flop. Like it was, if I remember correctly, it was kind of expensive for pre-order, and then like quickly became bulk.
Yeah.
Anything else for Awaken?
No, I'm trying to think if there were any other.
The removal spell, the black rare removal spell with Awaken. So was it Ruinous Path?
I think so. That sounds, yes, that is correct.
Yeah, that saw a bunch of play. I think that was also the box topper, if I remember correctly. Not box topper, buy a box promo.
Buy a box.
Yeah.
Maybe,
buy
yeah.
a box promo. The next mechanic is Rally. Not Rally like we refer to the deck Rally, but Rally as a keyword. And Rally cared about allies entering the battlefield. So there was a creature type ally that was on a bunch of cards in this set and in original Zendikar. And the way for one of the ways to tie those two blocks together was through this keyword Rally that cared about allies. And that was basically it. When an ally ETB'd, it would have an effect based on Rally. I don't think any of these saw any competitive play. The only one that was close was Lantern Scout. It was like 2 and a white.
The white one.
And it gave lifelink to your team.
Yeah, whenever Lantern Scout or another ally enters the battlefield and you control creatures you control, gain lifelink.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think if it was in this set or the other set. Tajuru Warcaller, I think it might have like seen a little bit of constructed play. It was like 5 mana for a 2/1 with Rally. Creatures you control get +2/+2.
Oh, okay. So it's
As
like
like
a
a
overrun.
way to it's an anthem, yeah, on like a body.
Yep. Yeah, it's in this set.
Yeah, it was in limited. I know it was good. I think it might have seen a little bit of constructed play, but I don't remember. I remember the red guy. I have a whole bunch of him. Fire Mage Mantle.
Mm-hmm.
Try again. Fire Mantle Mage. There we go. Reading's fundamental. It's a 2/2 for 3 that when it comes into play, with a what's it called, Rally. You gain control. Creatures you control gain menace until end of turn.
Oh, that's pretty good too.
So, yeah, it was all right. It was all right. And then we have Converge.
I think out of these, Converge probably saw more constructed play than any of the others.
Mm-hmm. So Converge cared about how many colors of mana you use to cast a spell. So this is somewhere, maybe it's better than Sunburst.
Yeah.
But it's somewhere in that like general like area. So like there was Radiant Flames, which is 2 in a red, and you with Converge and you dealt X damage, where X is the amount of colors you spent to cast it. So it could be 1 damage, 2 damage, or 3 damage, kind of depending on what the board needed.
Yeah, and like that in particular, that card was nice because you could tune it to your board state as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you just needed it to be 1 damage to spare your creatures, you could do that.
Yeah, you could be like, how am I going to kill?
Yeah. The other one that was important was Painful Truths, which was 2 and a black, and you drew cards and lost life equal to the Converge.
Yes, that card was also, that was the other card that like saw like substantial play.
Yeah. And I think either one of those cards saw more constructed play than probably any of the Awaken cards.
Yes, I would agree.
There's one more mechanic that wasn't listed under the mechanics section for this set, but definitely was in this set. And that's Landfall.
Oh yeah. It's funny that they didn't like.
Well, I mean, it's evergreen now.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe somebody edited the article and they didn't count it as a mechanic because it's evergreen now. But at this time, it was not evergreen. I think this was the first time it has showed up since the previous Zendikar.
Mm-hmm. So like it's a very good mechanic. It is fun because it turns your lands, it makes lands into a thing that you like care about.
Right.
Right? Like instead of just like flooding out, you're like, okay, like I'm actually getting to do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm getting value out of this card that would otherwise be of no use to me.
Right.
So, and that plays well. Like that is fun. You're like, oh, this is enjoyable.
Yep.
I don't remember what cards had landfall. I guess there was some like by like what's it called? Zendikar Rising standards.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There was like things that got +1/+1 until the end of turn. As opposed to like now they would get like a +1/+1 counter.
Scythe Cat
in a lot of
counters.
Okay, but like there was like a 1-drop that just got like +1/+1 till the end of turn.
Yep.
So like they're like it was good, but not nearly as like pushed as like cards are now, which is kind of the standard for things.
Yeah, was it Omnath made 5/5s for landfall, but it was like 3 red, green, green, green.
I think it was. Is like maybe 2 red, green, green, or is it?
No, I thought it was like impossible to cast.
It's the last card in the on the sheet, I think, or one of the last cards, because I just saw it. It was a mashup of both of
Yeah.
our things. It was 3 green, green, red, red.
Yep.
But yeah, it like made 5/5s, and then like if you hit like a certain threshold of 5/5s, it just like, or if one of them died, it like dealt 5 to
3.
3.
Yep.
Oh, it's not nearly as good. Can it deal 5, please? I'd like it to deal 5.
Sure. We'll just errata that.
Errata it.
Yeah.
Hey, I think we talked in the pre-show on how you could fix Amalia.
Mm-hmm.
Or so the unshow.
The unshow.
See, now you got me doing it.
Sorry.
Like just go back and errata it. It's like, hey, we can all admit you made a mistake.
Yep.
Just go back and fix it. Like no harm, no foul. Like we won't get mad.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to. It's fine. But yeah, like it's weird that they didn't like count it as a mechanic.
Yeah.
Because like then a few sets later they had like Tireless Tracker where they were like, this is 100% landfall, but we're gonna just write out what landfall does,
right?
As opposed to like actually like
calling
just write the word landfall.
Yeah.
And just make this easier for no one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, thanks everyone, much appreciated.
So I mentioned a minute ago that I don't remember that limited event that we went to at all, and I actually don't think I remember testing for that event with you guys, but I might not have played in it.
Okay.
I don't know why I think that, but I don't really remember the limited format. Like I remember specifically 2 cards that I drafted very aggressively, but other than those 2 cards, I really don't remember what the archetypes were.
It was red green landfall was one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, I don't remember what the best archetype was. I usually like remember.
Yeah. I remember aggressively drafting sludge crawlers and Eldrazi sky spawners.
Oh, so Eldrazi sky spawner is a 2 and a blue, 2/1 for a devoid. It's a 2/1 flyer. It's a 2/1 twice, but that's all right. And when it enters the battlefield, you get a 1/1 Eldrazi Scion. So in original Zendikar, you had spawns that were O1s.
Yep.
Then we did Scions,
which were 1/1s.
And now we're back to spawns.
Yep.
Which makes trying to put Eldrazi in your cube difficult because on one hand, it makes sense to have Sky Spawner, but on the other hand, you don't want just like a random Scion with like things that care about
spawn.
A spawn. But that card now sounds normal.
Mm-hmm.
But there was, is it Sandstep Outcast was kind of the first card that did the like 2/1 and then make like a 1/1 flyer.
Mm-hmm.
And then this was a 2/1 flyer that made it a 1/1 ground creature.
Yeah.
And like that was like, ooh, value.
Yeah.
Right? And so like that was a card that you're like, I'm getting 2 things. They both have power and toughness. 1 flies. Like, oh, this is so good. So you might not think that now, but
Once upon a time.
Once upon a time.
Back in my day.
Back in my day, that was good. Grip of Desolation, exile target creature and target land for 6 mana. Like, that card was playable. So this is in the period where Wizards made removal really bad.
Yeah.
This was the bad removal times.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, the other card I remember from Limited was the Sludge Dragon.
The Sludge Dragon?
Yeah, it was like a 1 mana 1/1 with fire breathing.
Oh god. I have no idea.
Sludge Crawler.
Sludge Crawler, okay.
Yeah.
Is that like a The void card?
Yeah.
What color was it?
Black. The 1
Black?
mana 1/1 with Devoid and Ingest, and you can pay 2 and it gets +1/+1 till end of turn.
Okay. I feel like I never drafted that card.
No, I remember drafting that card aggressively.
I remember drafting Silent Skimmers.
Yeah.
The 3 and a black 0/4 that when it attacked, your opponent lost 2 life.
Yep.
And I remember like Halimar Tidecaller, 2 and a blue, 2/3. All your land creatures get flying,
Mm-hmm.
and like playing things like is it Ondu Rising?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whatever. Give something lifelink, get a land, and then like, hey, your blue white like flying lands now.
Yep.
I remember it being like a pretty decent limited format, other than like just Ingest being like
Worthless.
in your face awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like this is not fun. Are there any like other cards that I'm like, Green Warden of Marasa?
Yeah, it's
That
like
was-
a mythic though, isn't it?
Yeah, but like I was like, oh, that was a card. That was good times. Catacomb Sifter, another like make 2 bodies thing.
Oh, for sure. Catacomb Sifter was great. I mean, that was
It was great in
playable.
standard.
Yeah.
Speaking of cards that were super high value pre-release cards that became bulk, Sire of Stagnation.
Yeah. Yeah, that card was way hyped and then did nothing.
4 blue black for a Eldrazi with the Void. It's a 5/7. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under opponent's control, that player exiles the top card of his or her library, and you draw 2 cards.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out once they get to like 6 mana,
Yeah,
they don't need any more lands.
right.
So yeah, this card didn't do anything. Drana's Emissary.
Oh, yeah.
So 1 black white for a 2/2 flying. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses a life and you gain life. You would just like sit and just like
this
have,
format
like, 2 of
really
those.
wasn't aggressive, right? So like,
No.
the games kind of ramped and went long, and like a couple of Dranas emissaries would end the game
would
pretty
like
quick.
would be a clock, and
Yeah.
like it'd be like, oh man, like I have to actually like do something here.
Yep.
Like, oh no. So that is a funny card because it's like, oh yeah, that was a card that we actually played.
Yep.
The other, like, maybe not for limited, but the other big cards that came out of here were the fetchable lands.
Yeah, because we had fetch lands in standard.
From the cons block. So, what other, like,
Those
cool
lands really
limited
didn't matter outside of that exact fact, though.
Yes, they did not come into play and do anything.
Yeah, they were just
They
fetchable.
just were like, they are guild gates with land types.
Yep.
Which turns out it's pretty good sometimes.
The other card that I think was kind of overhyped during spoiler season was Fathom Feeder. I remember a lot of pros talking about this card to the point that at that GP, I think I had a playset signed, and then like it did actual nothing.
Which one's Fathom Feeder?
Blue black 1/1 with Devoid and Death Touch and Ingest, and you can pay 5 to draw a card. And
Oh yeah.
your opponent exiles top card of their library.
Oh yeah. Kind of like
Like a really bad Baleful Strix.
yes, exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like Baleful Strix at home.
Yeah.
If your home burnt down.
If you're homeless.
If you're homeless. Baleful Strix at the homeless shelter.
Yep.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, that card is fine, but just not entering the battlefield and drawing you cards is a big downside.
Yeah.
Big
Also doesn't
downside.
fly.
Yeah.
That's another downside when comparing it to Baleful Strix.
Yeah. All downsides. All downsides.
Yep. Anything else about limited?
I don't think like um it was pretty good. Like I do remember I did enjoy it. I played it a lot. Like this is one of the sets that I think I had the most cards for as I was going through stuff. Like
Right.
from just
That's
like
a
like drafting so much.
well, that's also because this set was very widely opened. We can skip to that if you want.
Okay.
There are a couple lasting effects to Magic as a game that came out of this set. And the first is at the time we called them lottery cards, but now they're just like secret layers. But there was it one in every case or two in every case?
Something like that.
So they were super rare. Like they weren't in every, but you didn't get one in every box. But randomly in the packs, they came out with like a special version of the fetch lands and some other lands, like in the packs. They called them masterpieces.
These were the Zendikar expeditions, right?
Yep.
So it was they had the fetches, they had the shocks.
Yep.
Were the big ones.
Yeah.
And then, as they do, you're like, "Oh, I got
Dusk Bowl.
I got a bad one."
Yep.
And they're like, "I am sad now cuz I got a bad one."
Yeah, but I mean some of these were like $300 a piece.
And
they
were
at the time it was unheard of to open a booster box and get more than your money's worth out of one card.
Yes.
So there were an absolute ton of people opening packs looking for expeditions. Like I said, this was the first time we had anything like this, and at the time I don't think they had mentioned it was going to be an ongoing thing. And people were very excited and just mass cracking packs.
Yes, it was very it was very exciting, and like you said, people just didn't know how to like. I think anytime anything new happens in Magic like this, there's like oh man, this is gonna be super rare.
Yeah.
Like they're not gonna do this. These are gonna be worth like a lot of money at
well,
some point.
I mean, to be fair, they are. Like they're still worth money. I have Expedition Verdant Catacombs, and they're still like $260 or something.
Yeah.
But just the fact that they kept doing it and doing it and doing it and beat it into the ground made it so that they weren't really worth chasing anymore.
Yes.
The other lasting effect that Battle for Zendikar had on the game is BFZ was the first time that full art lands were reprinted since OG Zendikar.
Yeah, since outside of the
unsets.
The unsets, yeah.
And I mean, people were also buying product just for full art lands. I know for a long time the BFZ fat packs were like impossible to find because they wanted to crack the packs for expeditions and they wanted the bricks of full art basics.
Yeah, and now like I have an entire long box that is like full art lands.
Yeah.
Most of them from like BFZ or whatever.
Yep.
I remember when our shopkeep would not sell them.
Yeah. Yes.
He was like, "This is my retirement plan," and it's like,
yeah.
How did
that retirement plan work out for you?
Unfortunately, they just kept printing them,
right?
Thus, making it less good,
making them worthless.
Yeah.
And now we get them all the time. I mean, it seems like every 2 or 3 sets they come out with new full arts. Sometimes multiple versions for the same set.
So yeah, it does make it like hard to get excited about them
Yep.
anymore because you're just like, oh, like we just have these all the time now.
Yep.
So
Were
why?
there any other lasting effects on the game that came out of BFZ you can think of?
Um, I think that uh like just like the lasting effect of like Gideon and like kind of understanding like the kind of the long lasting impact and Gideon's the reason that they first kicked around changing the rotation schedule because
Oh, that's right.
Gideon was like the only card you could play.
Mm-hmm.
Like you had to play Gideon, and so people were like, "This is no good." Um, so Wizards was like, "Okay, fine, we'll do like a year and a half rotation."
Yeah.
And then they jumped off of it. They
Yep.
were just like, "No, we changed our mind." Uh,
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't remember Gideon being part of that. Like at the time, they were messing around with the rotation schedule. They had just come off of blocks.
mhm.
Like they weren't doing 3-set blocks anymore. And like that changed the rotation schedule. And then they changed the rotation schedule again. But I don't remember that having anything to do with Gideon. I think that was just them trying to like find what worked.
What would work? Fair. Like I just remember that like it felt like Gideon being like around all the time
Yeah.
like made it so people were like kind of more open to getting rid of um like the rotation thing, but I could be wrong. I could be misremembering.
Yeah.
It was almost 10 years ago.
Yep. Speaking of Gideon, I'll talk about some pertinent standard cards / decks.
Sure.
Um, Gideon was definitely the biggest. It certainly had the biggest impact on standard and maybe modern. Like it saw modern play for a while.
Yeah, in tokens decks.
Yep.
Roll.
Oh. Well, I mean, it saw play in not tokens decks too. I remember, was there Red White Prison that got real
Oh yeah.
popular for a while? Like that ran Gideon.
Mhm.
Um,
Um what like so Gideon was just kind of like ubiquitous. It was the best planeswalker in standard by like a mile.
yeah,
And the fact that so Gideon did something that no other planeswalker did, in that you didn't it didn't matter if you drew too many of them
yeah, because you could just
because
alt it for an emblem immediately.
yeah, you just alt it and you were good.
Yep.
And you were done. It was like, okay, cool. So like I am good.
Yep.
As opposed to
Gideon never went down, right? It only went down for the alt.
yes. I think it was like 0 was make a 2/2, +1 was like he bashed.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, +1 he becomes a 5/5 indestructible. 0 is make a 2/2, and 4 is make an -4 is make an emblem with creatures you control get +1/+1.
so yeah, I think that like the fact that like if you drew a second one, you just altered Gideon
Mm-hmm.
and just played the other one.
Yep.
Was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like he just kind of like made like all it was just in all kinds of decks.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we've talked on the show before about Rally the Ancestors decks, and
Mm-hmm.
they kind of really came into their own around this time because of Zulaport Cutthroat. You could get a combo
Mm-hmm.
kill instead of trying to, like the early Rally decks. I don't know if you remember this or not, but the early Rally decks were trying to make a Cutthroat, or not a Cutthroat, a Nantuko Husk
Tuka
unblockable.
Husk. Mm-hmm.
somehow through fear or menace or whatever, and try and get through that way.
Yeah.
It wasn't until BFZ where they had Zulaport Cutthroat as a blood artist to kind of combo people out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of important. Um, Another card that was important, I believe in Standard, but also in Modern for a little while, was Retreat to Coralhelm.
Yeah. Like Retreat to Coral Helm is like landfall, untap a creature, or scry or something.
Something.
Let's look.
Something like
Something.
that.
Like, no, it's untap a creature
Untap
because
creature.
like it goes infinite with like almost everything. Oh, perfect.
Yeah, you may tap or
untap
untap a
target
creature
creature
or scry
and
one.
yeah. So with Knight of the Reliquary, this just goes infinite. You get all the lands out of your deck.
Yep.
Make Knight huge.
Yep.
And then like you would like end it with like Sajiri step, give it like protection.
Yeah.
And then get in for the win.
Yep.
But yeah, that card got played a bunch. Like that was like kind of a tier 2 modern deck for a while. It was like play a 3-mana do nothing enchantment into like just a 3/3 or a 2/2 with an ability.
Yep.
We
already talked about Radiant Flames a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of held together some of the, I called them mush decks here, but at this time we had just come off of cons.
Yeah.
So we had fetches, and now we had fetchable dual lands. So there was a lot of like 4-color trade binder decks floating around, like just 4-color best cards in every color.
Moist Jund, Dark Jeskai.
Dark Jeskai, yep. And like Radiant Flames kind of tied those decks together because it gave you a sweeper until your colors were set up, and also worked well with having lots of colors of mana.
Yeah. So Radiant Flames and like Painful Truths were in those decks as well, where you would like get a draw 3.
Yep.
And then Bring to Light.
Mm-hmm.
What did we Bring to Light for? I don't remember.
I remember it being a deck at the time in Standard, but I don't remember what it got.
I remember doing one of the first drafts and like getting past one and just taking it because I was like, it's $5.
Yeah.
Of course I'm going to take this card. It did not stay $5.
Were we getting Brood Monitor?
Brood Monitor? I don't think.
That's the one that like was a flicker target because it ETB'd and made like a bunch of scions.
But it's 6. It's 6 mana, so you couldn't get it. I guess
it wasn't Brood Monitor. There was something that we were getting in Standard, though. I just don't remember what it is.
Yeah. Back in my day, we would get the creature. We gave you more creatures. But, yeah. And then, I feel like Undergrowth Champion did something, or we wanted it to do something, and it didn't.
Yeah, I think we just wanted it to do something. I don't think it actually did.
Unfortunate, because like I still remember that card.
Yeah.
I mean, and then like Ulamog.
Okay, so here's a. Oh, okay. Well, this makes sense. Here's a Bring to Light deck from Pro Tour BFZ. 4 JVP, 2 Nissa Vastwood Seer, 4 Siege Rhino.
Yes.
So that's what we were getting with Bring to Light. Was
Siege Rhino.
Rhinoceros.
So this may have been the birthplace of, if you guys have watched the ongoing Saffron Olive series of like basically oops all Siege Rhinos, when like he'll just like make a deck that is just getting Siege Rhinos in every way possible. This is kind of where that started.
Yep.
Then you have like looking at some of the Pro Tour decks. Like looking at cards from.
I don't remember this Esper Demons.
Esper Demons?
Yeah, Adrian Sullivan played it.
Oh yeah, I saw it. And I like that might have been like. What are they with Demonic Pact? I
Yeah,
vaguely remember this.
I don't remember this deck at all. Maybe this was just an Adrian Sullivan thing. That wouldn't
I
surprise
think
me.
it was. Um, but like, so like Bant tokens, right? So, right, like this was the Gideon deck, right? You
Yeah,
played like Hangerback Walker. When it died, you got a bunch of flyers.
yeah,
Elvish Visionary just gets you through things. Wingmate Rock makes a token, and then you just
yeah,
have Gideon to like make it big and then secure the waste.
yeah.
Like it's like, oh, okay, like just like, removal and like ways to make things.
Mm-hmm.
And then Gideon just like turns all your like 1/1 idiots into like good cards.
Yep.
Um Jeskai tokens. But like even like Jeskai tokens, like kind of the almost like the quintessential um like Khan's archetype with Jeskai Ascendancy
Mm-hmm.
for Gideon.
Right.
Get in there, buddy.
Yeah, I mean that's like these decks are, no offense, but they're kind of like uninspiring to look at because they're all very samey.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they're like some of them are doing very, I don't want to say different things because they're all kind of doing the same thing. That's the problem. But some of them are different colors for different cards, but they're all
Yeah.
just like the same thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I mean that's the problem, and like we've kind of run into this with like a lot of like current standards and stuff. When your mana's really, really good,
Yeah.
like things kind of like mush together where you're just like playing some combination of what has been deemed the best cards.
Right.
So
And guess what? Your mana is really good when all the best cards are just black.
this is very true. When they all have a black mana symbol, you're like, oh, these are like really good.
Yeah.
Okay, we should do that. And then you like look at like somewhat Ricky Chin like knocking out 8th place in like with green white megamorph.
Mm-hmm.
Like what a mad lad. Like,
The deck was great
but
though.
again, but like what did that deck have? 4 Gideon.
Right.
Trying to think if there's any other fun. The next one we get to talk about some shady draft play.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be good. Um yeah, like I remember this set, but it also just like you don't have like a bunch of like cards and stuff that like jump out. It just kind of seems like meh.
Yeah. I mean, like there were some important cards in this set, and I think we've at least touched on them already. Um, we just talked about Bring to Light.
Mm-hmm. And then
And
Ulamog.
yeah, like Bring to Light still sees play in the Niv to Light decks.
It does. I mean Ulamog was in pre MH3 Tron.
Yep.
Um
I think Ulamog's been a ramp target since it was printed.
I mean, it took a little while for it to kind of get do a lot in standard, but then towards the end of its life in standard,
Well, I mean,
it did a lot.
it took a while for it to gain traction in standard because everything was just four or five color mush decks. And
Yeah.
like in those decks, the cards are so individually powerful that you don't really have time to get to 10 mana. And there
Yeah.
wasn't like a ramp deck that was like, I'm going to get to 10 mana, because it was better to just play pile good stuff.
Yeah, like this was definitely an era, like even going back to like and I guess it's kind of how like a lot of current Magic, not like kind of the Pro Tour decks for I guess last weekend notwithstanding, right, is like it was very much just like cards that were individually powerful, like think Abzan, think
Right.
but like didn't otherwise have like cohesion
Mhm.
other than so almost like Esper now, right? Like the Esper decks in standard, where it's just like what's the best 2-drop to play? Oh, this like thing that has Disturb. And then what's the best 3-drop to play? Well, you play Rafine.
Yeah.
And like where like, there's not that cohesion of like card A plus card B is greater than the sum of their parts.
Yeah.
So whereas like the energy decks in Modern now are very much like A plus B gives you like way more than A and B did individually.
Yeah.
And this was kind of an era of, just generically good card.
Mhm.
And like I can cast it, so it's fine.
Right.
We did get cool Sylvan scrying art.
We did.
Is this remember Drana?
Yeah. Drana was fun for a little bit.
Yeah.
I tried playing Drana for a little bit and got smushed.
2 black for a legendary creature, vampire ally with flying and first strike. It's a 2/3. Whenever Drana deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on each attacking creature you control.
Yeah, I mean, like the cool thing about Drana was it pumped your team before your team could deal damage.
Mm-hmm.
But it also died to like every removal spell in the format. So
yeah, and then Crumble to Dust.
Yeah, Crumble to Dust. That was supposed to be what saved Jund from Tron.
A 4-mana sorcery speed Stone Rain.
Yep. Yeah, but it made it so that they just like could not ever assemble Tron again.
Yeah. But yeah, like Crumble to Dust like saw a bunch of Modern play.
I wouldn't say it saw a bunch of Modern play, but
it like rotated in and out of sideboards. It was back in the days of Modern when like Tron would win an event.
Yeah.
And then people would put their Tron hate in their deck.
Yep.
And then Tron would be bad and they would take the Tron hate out. Back when it used to rotate. Simpler times. I mean, we got Hedron Archive, which is like Commander All-Star.
Yep.
I am holding out hope. I still have a stack of ally encampments. One day we will get there.
We got the memeiest meme card to ever meme.
Oh, is this Hedron alignment? Or is that from the other set?
That's the other one. There was one in this set, though.
Oh, what was that?
Prism Array.
Oh, yeah. Like, what was the weird win con for that?
Well, it wasn't a weird win con. It was just like a bad card that you hated yourself for every time you saw it in your draft. It's a 4 and a blue with Converge, and it enters with a counter on it for each color of mana spent to cast it. And you can remove a counter to tap creature. And then you could pay Wooburg to scry 3.
It's a rare.
It's a rare. That's a rare.
That's a rare. That's rough.
Yep.
Oh, this is, so there had been Mutavault before, but this is where they gave us Shambling Vents and like the other Lumbering Falls and the other like tap ATB tap creature lands.
Yeah, the original Zendikar had allies and these were enemies, right? Or no, other way around. We had enemies.
No, this is black, white, blue, green. Yeah. Is that it? Or are there only the 2?
Oh, that's right. We got the rest in Oath.
Okay.
Yep.
But yeah, like this was a big deal because there hadn't been creature lands in Standard, and like especially once it made mana, and like since Zendikar.
Right.
It is so funny, like how things used to be like, oh, this hadn't happened in like 7 years.
No, it just happens all the time.
It just happens all the time. Yeah. And it's just like, oh, like you just are like, oh, okay, I guess that's the thing that we're doing this set. Okay. Yep. And like you don't have the same like, oh man, we haven't done this in such a long time. Because they're just like, what if we gave you a colorless creature land that puts counters on the south? What if we did this? And it's like, oh, okay.
Yep.
All right. We got anything else about this?
I don't think so.
Back in our day?
the set was, looking at it
Somewhat forgettable.
historically, yeah. I mean, there was definitely some important things that happened, but for the most part, like, the set didn't matter other than like changing the way, like shaping future Magic sets, I guess, is the only real lasting effect of this set.
Like giving us the void.
Yeah.
I mean, by that metric, of the next set,
Right.
big change.
Yep.
But yeah, like, I mean, the full art lands, I still have like a bunch of the fat pack
Yeah.
sealed
Yeah, I do too.
basic lands. Yeah, like it was very much, we were all very excited.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just became like the standard.
Right.
Felt like a bait and switch almost.
Yep.
All right. So with all that, we got a show.
We got a show.
So if you want to reach out to us on social media, Facebook, Discord, Twitter, any of that stuff, links are in the description. Say hey. Let us know. Let us know if you were playing this set back in our day.
Yeah, hit us up. If you want to support the show, there's 2 ways you can do it. Our TCG player affiliate link, casualtryhard.com/TCG, or Patreon, patreon.com/casualtryhardmtg. Either of those places, you can figure out what to do to support us, and we would appreciate it.
All right, so here's a quick little extra bit on the way out the door for anyone still listening. Endless One.
Oh, I forgot about Endless One.
X for a 0/0, and it enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters.
Yep.
It is the perfect limited card.
Mm-hmm.
It fills your curve at any point, and a 3-mana 3/3 in 2015 was above the curve.
It was.
A 4-mana 4/4 was above the curve.
Yep.
And at this limited GP, one of our compatriots had this card in his pool.
Mm-hmm.
And did not put it in his main deck.
Yep.
And I remember we were like, what are you doing? This is the best card in your pool. So he sided it in every game 2 and 3.
That's
Like,
right. I do remember that from this tournament. I had to be there. For whatever reason, I don't remember playing.
You just blocked it out. Yeah, like I remember this happening. I saw the card, I'm like, oh yeah.
Yep.
I remember getting Ulamogged
Yep.
and Endless One. Two opposite ends of the spectrum. So that we'll catch you on the internet.
We'll catch you on the internets.